Hi, you feather merchants. This story here is about where I grew up on the south side of Chicago. And I was born during World War II. And my dad was, he joined the Marine Corps to fight in the war. They sent him to Midway before, about the time I was born. So he never saw me till about 2.5 years later. Anyway, my earliest childhood memory was where we were living. It was either when I was 3 or 4 years old, and it was on the south side of Chicago. And we lived in a two-room apartment right above a tavern, and it had one bathroom for each floor. And I remember we didn't have a refrigerator. We had an ice box, and that's when the iceman would come with a big block of ice, and you just put it in the ice box to keep stuff cold. Anyway, I remember my dad was getting ready to go to work. He opened the front door, and there was some guy laying on the threshold of the door. So he closed the door, went back in and get his gun, and I watched him. He went back to the door. He opened the door again, and he stuck that gun down in that guy's mouth. And he said something. I don't know what he said, but we never saw that guy again. He never came back, and to my knowledge, I never remember anyone else taking a nap there. Anyway, from there we moved to another apartment. It was a basement apartment on the south side, real close to 63rd Street, and it actually had a bathroom in it. And blue collar neighborhood. A couple of kids I played with, their dads were cops, and mostly people worked in a steel mill and that. Anyway, we were living in this little apartment, and this is actually, we used to listen to the radio back then, and they had all these programs on the radio, Fibber McGee and Molly, Lone Ranger, stuff like that. And we didn't get a TV until I think I was about 6 years old, and it was just a little small screen with a big cabinet in it. And that's where I went to that's when I started school. I went to kindergarten, and actually I did really well in kindergarten. It was after that it was downhill. I'm not certain what the problem was, but I was a real behavioral problem from first grade all the way until I graduated from high school. Anyway, that's another story. And I do remember my my first grade teacher, because I was a behavior problem. She used to make me hold my hands out like this, and she would hit my hands with a ruler. And that's the only time I ever saw her smile. I never saw her smile other than that. So I did something. I was just a kid, young, and I took $1 from somebody, from actually a relative, and I saw it on the table, and I took the $1, and on the way home, I stopped at the toy store and bought some toy soldiers, and I'm playing with them at home. And my dad asked me, he said, "Where'd you get the toy set?" I said, "Well, I bought it." He said, "Why'd you buy it?" I said, I found $1 on the sidewalk. He told me, he says, "The reform school's already been contacted. They know you stole the $1 from my relative, right? And they're going to come and get you this afternoon. There's nothing I can do about it." And I thought to myself, I cannot believe this. I'm 6 years old, and I'm going to prison. And so anyway, I asked him, I said, "There's something you can do?" And He said, well, let's call him up. So he pretends like he's making a phone call. I think he's making a phone call because it sounds like he's talking to the guy at the reform school, and they're going back and forth, and he's telling him, he said, maybe give him a second chance. And I'm thinking to myself, they're not going to give me a second chance. I'm gone. I know I'm gone. But he said, no, he said, they're going to give you a second chance. And you know something? That ended my life of crime. At no point in time after that, I wasn't taking any chances. I wasn't going to go to prison. So anyway, we moved from there to his old neighborhood, and where my mom was from also. It was right off of 63rd Street and Stony Island. And it was a real interesting neighborhood. I loved it as a kid. It was a lot of immigrants there. The Jackson Park, it was a paradise for kids. They had these big swing sets. They had the monkey bars and stuff like that. 63rd Street Beach was within walking distance. The kids I hung out with, we used to go to the Museum of Science and Industry and spend the day there. It was really interesting. And then they had the Tower Theater, and they'd have those 100 cartoon matinees. I think it only cost about 16 or 17 cents to go to the movies. It was pandemonium in there, in the movies. It was all kids. They had a balcony, and I remember my little friend, Hermie, me and Hermie, we'd terrorize that place. And I remember we'd go up in the balcony with cups of water and dump them down on the kids at the bottom, and then run to the back of the theater, sit down, pretend like nothing's happening. And these bigger kids, they'd be looking for us, but there were so many kids there, they didn't know who was the people doing this. And I remember one time there was a little grocery store right on 63rd Street. That's when they had this streetcars back then. And anyway, there was a little grocery store there, and it was run by an immigrant. I just remember he had an accent. And Hermie really made him angry. And he locked Hermie into the walk-in freezer. This isn't a walk-in cooler. This is a walk-in freezer. And he told me, he says, go get his dad, because I'm not letting him out of there until his dad comes. So I thought, okay. So I ran to Hermie's house. I got his dad, and his dad came down there, and they opened the door to the freezer, and I'll never forget this. Hermie he looked like he was close to becoming an ice cube. He was shaking. I mean, I thought he's going to die in there. Anyway, we lived in a 3-story brick building, and we were on the 3rd story. And right next to our apartment building, there was an alley, and then there was a lumber yard, and the elevated train ran right on the other side of the alley from us at about the same elevation as our apartment. In fact, from the back porch, we had those old wooden back porches, and I think I could hit the train with a rock if I would have thrown it. Everything was going okay. I like I said, I had a lot of little buddies. I didn't do well in school. I was always in trouble. But one night I remember standing in the kitchen, and I'm with my mom, and there's I could see 3 guys trying to break into the back door. And it had glass on it. The door had a glass, so I could see right through there. And 3 black guys are trying to come through the door. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not the least bit concerned, because my dad was in the bedroom getting his gun. And I was pretty certain that I was going to see these guys get shot. So he came running around the corner, my dad did. And as soon as they saw him pointing a gun at him, I mean, they're gone. I could hear them running down the wooden stairs. They ran all the way until they got to the bottom, and it wasn't too long after that. My dad told me, he says, we're moving out of Chicago. We're going to move to Indiana. And I thought, oh, Indiana, in my head, even as a kid, I thought, this is going to be boring. But anyway, and then actually it's funny because the first place we moved to in Indiana was in Hammond, Indiana. It's just a short drive from Chicago. We lived in a subdivision, and I remember the next door neighbor. He was a brand new FBI agent. He was working out of the Chicago office, and he went to go to work in the morning, and his car wouldn't start. And he opened the hood, and his battery was gone. So, someone had stolen his battery. And as a kid, I thought, oh, this is really good. I mean, FBI, they're going to do fingerprints. They're going to arrest this guy. But evidently, he hadn't been to fingerprint school or something, because they never did lift prints off of the car. And next thing I know, he moved. But anyway, I'm going to conclude this short story, and I just thought, yeah, you might find it of interest. And anyway, you guys have a good day.